So our next guest has been published and promoted rather extensively. Please join me in welcoming our next guest, the Office Hobo.
I am an ordinary guy who's lived in some pretty extraordinary situations. Thanks to a little creative living space management, I haven't paid rent since December of 2012. The most important thing, though, about that lifestyle was that I was acting in an intentional way to downsize my life. To imagine that living tiny not only helps us hone in on what's really important to us, but to also meet the desire to be the change we want to see in the world as well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Living tiny is affordable. It's liberating. It's sustainable. It's empowering. So why isn't it the norm? And why is it still stigmatized? And most importantly, what can we do as people who invest in this movement, who are interested in this movement, to reverse that trend? There's a rising population in our cities and a shortage of affordable housing. Between 2012 and 2013, 2.3 million people moved into American cities. Rents are skyrocketing. My hometown of LA saw an 8.3% increase in the price of rent over the past 1 year. But who are these people who are choosing to live in tiny spaces in our big cities? The growing class of urban professionals living a normal, middle-class, white-collar, urban professional life from an abnormal living space. We're doing it because we're fed up with the status quo. We're fed up with overpriced apartments far-flung from good-paying jobs. We're tired with that dizzying double-shift workday and that turnstile payday pirouette experience where you take a paycheck from one person just to turn around and give it to your landlord. Not all cultures have the same view on sleep spaces. In America, especially in urban America, and especially twice in Los Angeles, we consider someone sleeping in their car to be someone down and out, and our laws reflect that. The same remains true for tiny homes. In the West, we stigmatize those who sleep outside of defined bedroom spaces. Everywhere you look, there's that mythical link then between voluntary simplicity and homelessness. The logic being simplicity can't be good because it's poor. Poor is bad because it's kind of homeless, and therefore simplicity must be like homelessness, right? I found that it was following others that led me to my darkest hours. It was listening to doubters that had me doubting myself. It was closing my eyes for fear of hitting rock bottom that I decided to embrace that descent, and I learned that the bottom isn't rock at all, but it's this blank, trampoline-like canvas that vaults you back up in the direction that you prefer to head. How could anyone want to live in a small space, or an odd space, especially in one of America's most materialistic cities? Why do I do it? The feeling of living a working vacation. The joy of taking control over my finances, the beauty of being free to use my time how I please and follow my impulses, the motivation to get outside more, to be involved with the community, all because I have ownership over my routine again. I've saved about $52,000 in rent, 216 hours off of my commute. I've visited 5 continents, 17 national parks, and over 24 states and countries. Thanks to a load of extra free time, I've turned 60-hour work weeks into 10. I've published my first words, written my first screenplay, drafted hundreds of thousands of not good enough yet words for a book about this experience. Certainly, accomplishing all this couldn't possibly have been achieved through living a deplorable, unpleasant lifestyle, right? You see, living in an unusual space doesn't necessarily make you an unusual person. You aren't automatically transformed into some misanthrope, some imbecile, some sociopath. You're not some weirdo. You just see the world a little differently. And I'll be honest, that perspective of seeing the world a little differently can often yield some pretty healthy results for your body, for your mind, for the earth, for your soul. That is why we choose to live this way. There is a way to achieve our goals, despite the fact that we're in a troubling economy. Is it possible that the solutions that we have for our own personal utopias actually align with the best interests of Earth? The American dream has long been a matter of ballooning our income. But what if now it's changing to cutting down our costs and still becoming the people we always dreamed we wanted to be? Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.